Most men have a discipline problem, and at least that's what they think, right? They think if they could just get more motivated, build better habits, find the right routine, everything will click. So they try. They read the books, they build the morning routine, they set the goals. And then 2 months later, they're in the exact same position, wondering what went wrong. Here's what happened, right? It was never a discipline problem, it was an identity problem. And not many people talk about this or let alone understand this. I want you to think about someone you know, or maybe this is you, who knows exactly what they need to do. They know they should wake up earlier. They know they should be more consistent with their training. They know they should be more disciplined with their money. They have all the information and they still don't execute. And the question is why? The reason being is because knowledge and execution are not the same thing. And the gap between them is not filled with more information or motivation. It is filled with identity. Your identity is operating underneath everything you do. It is your answer, not the conscious one, but the automatic one to the question, who am I? And most men are trying to build a high performance life on top of an identity that was never built to support it. That's why the habits don't stick. That's why the routine falls apart after 3 weeks. That's why you keep starting over. You're trying to outperform your identity and you cannot do it, not consistently, not long term. So let me define this clearly because most people make identity too abstract, right? Your identity is not how you feel about yourself. It is not your confidence level. It is not what you believe you deserve. Your identity is what you consistently do when nobody is watching, when there is no accountability, when you don't feel like it, and when there's no reward. That behavior, that automatic default behavior is your identity expressing itself, okay? If a man consistently skips his workout when he is tired, his identity at that level is, I am someone who negotiates with my non-negotiables, okay? If a man consistently chooses scrolling over building, his identity at that level is, I am someone who defaults to comfort. It's not about what he wants to be, it's about what he automatically does. And here's what makes this important. Your automatic behavior produces your results, not your goals, okay? Not your intentions, but your automatic behavior, which comes directly from your identity. Change the identity and you change the behavior. Change the behavior and you change the results in that order, not the other way around, okay? Here's how you identify your own identity gap right now. I want you to think about the man that you are trying to become, not in a vague way, but be specific. How does he operate? What does he do every morning? How does he handle pressure? What does he not tolerate from himself? Now look at how you actually operated this week. Not how you planned to, but how you actually did. The space between those two things is your identity gap. And if you're being honest with yourself, most men watching this have a significant gap, okay? Not because they lack potential, not because they lack knowledge, but because the identity they are operating from was built by default, by their environment, their past, their habits, the people around them, not by design, right? Most men have never consciously decided who they're going to be and then built their life around that decision. That's the problem, but that's what we fix, okay? I want you to think about every area where you are not performing at the level you know you're capable of. Your discipline, your consistency, your physical standard, your financial results, your relationships, every area where there's a gap between what you want and who you have, and what you have, I'm sorry. Every single one of those gaps has the same root. It is not a strategy problem. It is not a time problem. It is not even a knowledge problem. It is an identity problem, okay? The man who cannot stay consistent with his training does not have a fitness problem. He has an identity that does not yet include being someone who trains without negotiation. The man who keeps letting his standards slip does not have a discipline problem. He has an identity that still has a ceiling on what he believes he deserves and what he is capable of maintaining. The man who keeps starting over, same goals, different year, does not have a planning problem. He has an identity that keeps pulling him back to the familiar, the comfortable, the known, right? Fix the identity and every area of your life changes. Not because you suddenly have more information, but because you are operating from a completely different foundation. So what does fixing it actually look like, right? Well, it's not a pep talk. It's not positive affirmations. It's not waking up and telling yourself how great you are, right? Identity reconstruction is a process, a specific structured process. It starts with an honest audit. Who are you actually being right now? Not who you want to be, but who are you being? What beliefs are running under your behavior? What do you automatically do under pressure? What do you tolerate from yourself, right? And then it moves into identifying the specific beliefs that produce these behaviors, because every behavior has a belief underneath it. Every pattern of underperformance has an identity that's driving it, okay? Then, and this is the work part, you build the new identity deliberately in behavioral terms, not how you want to feel, but how you are going to operate. And you install it through your identity, daily actions, your language, your environment, and your standard. This is the work I do inside his Optimized with Private Advisory clients. And every man who has gone through the process has said the same thing. The shift is not gradual. Once the identity changes, the behavior changes. Once the behavior changes, the results follow. Now, if you watch this entire video and you recognize yourself in what I described as the gap, starting over the knowledge without execution, then you already understand what the problem is. The question is whether you are going to do something about it, okay? If you are serious about closing that gap, the link to apply for his Optimized Private Advisory is in the description. Applications are reviewed personally by me. Not every application is accepted, but if you are ready, apply. If you are not ready for that level of commitment yet, the link to join the Optimal community is also in the description. That is where we build the foundation. Either way, stop waiting to feel ready. The work starts when you decide it does. I'll see you in the next one.